Hi, I'm Jen Hurd, and welcome to the Thrive Through Life Change event, where we're going to learn how to regain powerful personal energy, create an inspiring vision, and a balanced life in spite of everything going on in the world around us right now. I'm a professional organizer, and I have been for 30 years. And over the course of years, I've worked one on one with client after client, and some got through life transitions rather smoothly, and others not so much. So I decided that during the COVID vacation, I wouldn't be on vacation. I would look for experts from all over the world who can show that there's really no major life change that you can't overcome. And these experts are going to discuss how they've overcome their particular challenges and also how to grow and thrive even with a significant life change going on or having happened. So with that in mind, my guest today is Maria Tomas Keegan. Sorry, I went to say it like it was Spanish. That's the Spanish major in me. And she is a career and life coach for women, specializing in transitions, which she calls the upside downs of life. And her 30-year career in corporate management, coupled with her experience with life-changing events along the way, as we all encounter, has evolved into compassion for women who feel like they need to be superhuman. And I know I can raise my hand on that one. They need to be perfect all the time. They need to have, their work and career and home all just perfected. And so obviously, I'm not alone in that. There's plenty of you watching. And so this is a topic for all of us. So Maria, welcome so much. I'm so looking forward to talking with you.
Thank you so much, Jen.
Yeah, and you got books and an international podcast. So you're a very busy lady. I'm so glad we could catch you in between all of these things. Well, let's jump in. We had a prior conversation as we were preparing for this, and we talked a little bit about the upside down to right side up transition to triumph book. And I think that within that book, you talk about the difference between change and transition. And I thought it'd be good to sort of lay that out for people as we start to get a foundation for your work. Could you get into that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I would love to. And thanks for inviting me to join you here. I really appreciate it. This is a topic near and dear to my heart. And we all go through a lot of change. There is a life law that change is what happens to us, whether we like it or not, as you said. So, as a result of that, it's typically a change is typically an event like the birth of a child. It could be a happy event, or it could be a layoff, or it could be a pandemic. And so many things in between, right?
Right.
So these events can turn our world upside down, and they require us to respond to them in some way, shape, or form. Transition is the process we go through internally to adapt to the change. So as we learn and grow from dealing with change, we change. Sometimes we can become bitter as a result of the change because we're not moving beyond it. And that's our transition. Or we can become better as a result of the change.
Or better, right? Yeah, I like the alliteration. Bitter or better?
Or better, it's a choice.
That is true. That is true. I can speak from experience. When I went through my divorce, I was bitter for a while. I had to choose better at a certain point, though.
Yeah.
You really do have to pass that off.
And it's a process, right? We have to, we go through emotion when things change, especially even if they're expected changes. When our children are growing up and we know that at some point they're going to leave home, we're going to face an empty nest. That's a gradual change that hopefully we are preparing for. Right. But even when that happens, there are emotions that we feel, right? We feel loss.
Yeah, lots.
Right? We feel lost. We feel lost sometimes. We don't know who we are anymore now that we're not, the soccer mom or the designated driver, and so many other things, right? Daily preparing meals for family. What do we do now?
Yeah, we were talking earlier that I had grocery grief when I went through my divorce. Even when my daughter leaves to go back to college and then she comes home, I get grocery grief, which is like I don't know how to shop for less. It's difficult to like pare down and just buy an individual salad or just ah. And that's what gets me every time. It's the funniest thing. I actually physically change grocery stores to fix that for myself. I go to
Ah,
a little family grocer when nobody's home and it's just me. I go in there because they have different things all the time and they cook and they have a really nice like menu. So instead of going in like some big box store where I want to buy the things I normally buy when all the kids are home and coming and going, I'll switch over and I'll just go to the little grocer and pick out something special that might be something I would not have tried, but at least for me, it definitely helps ease that. It's a behavior I've had to pick up.
exactly. And that's what we have to do. We have to change how we look at things. So I love what Wayne Dyer says. When we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change.
Ah,
So we get to shift our perspective a bit. And that's so important when change comes at us, especially unexpectedly. And we have to figure out who do we want to become as a result of the change and how do we get there.
yeah. So as we're adapting to that, there's a lot of choices in the process of going through a change, and so we were talking about this on the phone about changing your point of view and how you can kind of brainstorm your new options, how you can start to seek out what your new options are. Let's dig into that a little bit. So when people are in that phase where they're having to make all these choices, how can they narrow their choices? How can they come up with new creative ideas?
Well, I think the first thing they have to do is allow themselves to open up to new possibilities, and to finding new solutions for what's going on for them, whatever that might be. When we consider that, I'm a lover of cats, so please don't take this personally, anyone. There is more than one way to skin a cat.
Right.
Um, and there's more than one solution for any problem. And I think we have to just allow ourselves to consider that and become curious about what that might be for us. And it's a very personal journey that we go on. We may be looking at someone else and saying, I want to be like him or her,
Right.
but their journey is very different than ours. Uh, but they may be able to present us with some options that we didn't consider. So opening ourselves to ask for help when we're feeling maybe a little stuck in the way we're thinking about things and not able to dig ourselves out of the rut we've dug ourselves into. So for me, it always helps to tap into friends or mentors. I'm a big proponent of mentors. Have had them all my adult life, and in my career, and in my business today. Even I tap into them. I have people around me, and I call these people my personal board of directors.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, they are, well, having a 30-year corporate background, it was kind of the
Yeah,
best name for me. I have some
right.
clients, I teach this to my clients, and some of them call their circle of supporters their band of angels or their front row. I have a mentor who calls hers her front row, as though she's acting in the play, she's the leading lady, and this is her
Yeah,
row of the supporters. Yeah,
I
so
like that.
there are cheerleaders, right? We need to surround ourselves with people who have maybe been where we're going and can help guide us and can open up some possibilities. Just allow us to brainstorm with them and let them support us in different ways. So it's just getting different views and insights.
One of the things I love about the online environment right now is that it's so accessible. You
Yeah.
know, it was a little different when I first started working in the corporate world, to find an individual. Plus, it was a very male dominated area because I was in automotive advertising. So there were a lot of men, not as many women. And then to find one that was seasoned and that was willing to share and that was willing to really support you. I had one, and she was amazing. And she would, usher me into these meetings and take me under her wing and whatnot, and taught me how to pitch things and whatnot. But I'll tell you what, it was invaluable. She was the reason that I've done that for so many other women since then. I mean, one of them I specifically am thinking of, where it kind of turned the tables and it went the other way, where she was just going back to the workforce after having had kids, and I was a manager and I hired her in, and I told her she could do it, and she did. And now she's running for mayor of a city in Arizona. So it's just funny. And she's the CEO of a company. And she wrote me a note a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. And she said, if you hadn't told me I could do it, I might not have even gone back. And then I did. And then I did. And then I did. And then I did. And I think that's what's important for women to do for other women. It's just sometimes it's as simple as saying, you can do this. Why do you think you can't do this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
It's
there's a
hearing
lot of
from
self-doubt.
someone. Yeah. Someone else may see in us what we cannot see because we are way too close to it. And we have all of that internal self-talk going on, that self-doubt, who do you think you are? You're not worthy. You're not smart enough. You can't, you've been out of it for too long. There's no way anyone will hire you. All of that stuff.
I said to her, I said, you've managed a household, you can handle this job. I mean,
There you
if you
go.
can multitask like that, we don't have any worries right now. You'll be fine, and it was like, oh, okay. And then, it was just, she hadn't put her skills into perspective. Her perspective was the box she'd been in, not
Yeah.
the box she was entering, that it might call for that.
Right.
It might call for an awful lot of that, in fact, what she was doing.
Yeah.
So
It's really
great.
interesting in this environment, this pandemic environment that we're in. I am both a career and life coach, and I am working with a lot of people on the career side and helping them kind of reinvent themselves by looking at all of the skills they have, not just the ones they used in their last job.
Right.
But identifying what all those skills are, and then exploring the possibility that their skills may translate for them to do something different than they were just doing, what they just got laid off from, or they may be now working from home,
Yeah.
loving it,
Mm-hmm.
and not wanting to go back to an office environment whenever the dust settles here.
Right.
And now what do I do instead? So yeah, I'm working with a lot of clients who are thinking about that.
Yeah. And then there's that aspect of taking that person who's in a real fearful state of that change, right? They don't know what they want to do now, and getting them to anticipate the change in a positive way, and not dread going back. Let's say that their financial situation calls for it, and they do have to go back into an office at some point or whatever. And so it's, there's a lot of fear and trepidation with new people, new systems, all that kind of thing. But if you've done it before, if you've learned it once, even if you haven't, but if you have skills that you can bring along, honestly, sometimes I think people are their own worst enemies, So, but what are some things that you do to help people anticipate those changes in a positive light and not get in their own way?
Well, it's interesting because you just hit on one of them. We have done more stuff in our lives than we give ourselves credit for usually.
Yeah.
And when we start to dig under that and see, so when did change happen for us before, and how did we respond? And where are we now as a result of the choices we made after that change, or as a result of that change? And what did we learn from that? And what tools now do we have in what I call our treasure chest that we can pull out again and dust off, so that we can use them now? So that, that's, I think, a very critical piece of it. Fear can hold us hostage or it can motivate us.
Yeah.
It depends on how we look at it. it depends on how we respond to the feelings we get when fear bubbles up. So I like to think about fear. For me personally, works
Yeah.
really well for me.
Yeah.
That the feeling I get when fear pops up is I get this funny feeling in my stomach, and I feel my throat closing up.
Oh.
So what I realized is that it's a very similar feeling that I get when I get excited. So instead of thinking about it being fear, I prefer to think of it as I'm excited about the chance, about the opportunity, about whatever it is. So good example that there was a time, and it happens still sometimes, that I have a fear of public speaking,
Sure.
and I to the point where my knees would shake, my voice would quiver, and I did not come across, or I did not feel as though I came across confidently. And I wanted that. So I had to flip. It's kind of like flipping a switch from fear to excitement. And I decided that this feeling I have in my stomach and this closing of my throat was really excitement, and I had to breathe into it, relax my throat, and allow the words to come out so I could be heard the way I wanted to be heard. So it's a flipping of the switch, and you can choose what the emotion is that you'd rather feel than fear. Whatever that is for you, feel that instead.
Well, and the opportunity to, like with public speaking, to serve more people than just one to one.
Yeah.
Because I had to step into that with my organizing too. I was used to being in someone's closet all day, and then in recent years, it was getting up in front of 50, 100, 200 people doing speaking engagements. And then you get to the point, you get more comfortable there, and you realize just from the feedback when people call you or they come back or they tell a friend about you that, oh, okay, that's impacting more people that way. So then
Right.
it's I get to help more people. You can get excited about that because you've spent the time learning what you know to be able to
Yeah.
help them. So yeah,
I love that. I get to. That's so important. That's a very powerful statement. I get to do whatever it is.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I get to help, busy, smart people be more effective and efficient, blah, blah, blah. Like you have that
Yeah.
in your head all the time. And it definitely turned, because I had a terrible stage fright. So I totally get you there. And the other aspect too is taking the COVID downtime, and you have an expectation that that's just going to be awful because initially, okay, we can't go out into people's homes anymore, as an example, right? So total shutdown, and spring is our busy season because realtors usually call organizers immediately to start listing houses. So they want us to do clean outs and cleanups and packs and moves and whatever. Well, screeching halt. And then you think, oh no. But I gave myself a week of a pity party and kind of, just the frustration of it. And then I said, well, all right. But there's a lot of things that have been on my list an awfully long time, like this event, for example, that I'd been wanting to do. I signed up for a coach 2 years ago to start putting this thing together. And I just got busy. And this was a blessing, but you have to seek it out, and then you have to step into it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So and I'm sure there's been plenty of people that have had a lot of challenges just emotionally with this, because it's been a very,
Yeah.
very trying time for a lot of people. But if you can pull one small thing even out of this time, like maybe you started painting again, or you picked up an old hobby that you really loved and that you hadn't done because again you were busy. I
Yeah.
think
It's interesting. This is what I call the silver lining.
yeah,
Uh,
yes, exactly.
when we look at things that are changing us, that are requiring us to change, that are requiring us to become maybe someone we've never been before. We need to focus on what's positive about the situation. We find silver linings in that. When we focus on the memories, we find silver linings. When we look at the blessing of the experience. So you just said that word. The blessing for you from this COVID experience is being able to do this summit, this event that you have had envisioned for a long time, and now you get to do it because now you have the time. That's a blessing. And with all of those experiences that, like COVID, like the loss of your career, like I lost after almost 20 years with one company, and then I got divorced by them. It was
Right.
painful and devastating and, world upside down kind of time. And the pity party, right? We all have to have that,
You do. You got to
hopefully,
allow a little bit of that.
hopefully we don't live there for too long, right?
Right.
But there are almost always blessings. When I look back at what happened in my corporate career, I am now so grateful that it happened that way, because I probably would not have had the courage to end my corporate gig and go do something else, like start my own business. I had it too good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did. I had it really good.
Yeah.
I was working, in management on a global team for an international corporation, and I got to work from home for my 20 years. It was good.
Yeah, that is a good situation.
Yeah, and then boom, my whole team got just disseminated in this resource action. So it was, but
A
now
big
I look
what now
back.
moment.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
A big what now moment. Like, oh,
Oh
man.
yeah, right, big
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, I look back on it now, and honestly, it didn't take me till now, because that was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
It took me about a year to look back and go, ooh, maybe they did me a favor. So it's those moments, right? It's those
Mhm.
moments we need to look for, because they don't always just show up. So we need to find those silver linings so that those will help us move. Keep that motion, that motivation, the upward mobility going for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so important. I think maybe it's just because I'm always like an eternal optimist. My daughter is 20 and she's always like, you always see the bright side in everything, because they catastrophize so much because everything seems so much bigger when you're 20. And I remember that too. It was always so much more dramatic, because you just didn't know how anything could ever work out.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. They don't
Yeah.
have the experience we have,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So they can't rely on that. And,
Yeah.
I remember my father especially saying, learn from my mistakes. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Life
Yeah.
just
Well,
doesn't work that way. They've got to learn on their own, and they've got to develop their own resilience and their own, ability to bounce back and manage through and go through that emotional roller coaster.
oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you have a terrific ebook that you have available that is going to be part of what we're going to offer back to our audience today. It's called From Darkness to Light, and it's going to be linked below this video, which is on your linked to your website, so they can also reach you, but also find this particular ebook. And maybe tell us a little bit about how this ebook came about. Like, how did Darkness to Light evolve?
Well, as I said, I am a career and life coach, and I specialize in working with women in transition. And one of the things that I love to do, it's kind of my purpose in life, is to empower women to be at their best in their lives and careers. So I love to create resources to help them. One of my resources is the book I wrote, which is Upside Down to Right Side Up, Turning Transition into Triumph. And then my international podcast, where I have conversations with women about their life stories and their expertise that will help others on their journey. So these are all resources. And this ebook is another one. It's
Yeah.
called From Darkness to Light, Learning to Adapt to Change and Move Through Transition. So I hope that it is just helpful for the people who read it to learn a bit more about what change is and what transition is and how we can move through both and come to the other side from darkness to light.
That's going to be great. So definitely check that out. Click the link below this video and you can access that. And then if you have further questions or you want to interact in some way with Maria, you can definitely do that. You'll be able to reach her through the information on this page. So I want to thank you so much, Maria, for joining us and talking about this important topic with everyone. And really, I want to remind the audience as well that there are 21 days to this event. We have 26 experts involved with this event. So you'll see there'll be some days we'll have more than one speaker. And it's all about life change and how to thrive as you come out the other side. And so, well, hopefully you're getting some energy and getting renewed by what you're hearing, and you'll come back tomorrow. We'll look forward to seeing you. This is Maria and Jen signing off.
Thank you. Bye.